All right, fantastic.
Let's begin by swearing in the new council members. Please come forward. And if you'd raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and will obey the laws of the United States and of the state of Maine, and that I will, in all respects,
Said that to myself.
observe the provisions
I knew there was something else.
of the charter and ordinances of the town of Bucksport, and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office town council member for the town of Bucksport. Okay, as soon as you finish, please.
She's got to do this one too.
Yeah.
She's got to ask for nominations.
I would like to call the Bucksport Town Council meeting, 7 p.m. Thursday, January 8th.
Yeah.
And roll call, Joe York,
Here?
Fred Finley,
Here.
David Key,
Here.
David Keen,
Yeah.
Peter Stewart.
Here.
Paul Godwin.
Here.
Byron Vinton.
Here.
Item number 3, annual actions of the town council. Letter A, election of chair of council, being the mayor. And in parentheses, manager's recommendation is that this position should be ordinance committee chairman. Open the floor for a
That's what
motion.
it says in the town.
I'd like to move to nominate for mayor David Keene,
Second.
who probably doesn't need much of a campaign.
Any other motions?
I move we close the nominations.
Motion cease. Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Opposed? Thank you.
And a fine campaign it was.
I think we need to act on the second part of the A, which is manager's recommendation, is that this position should be ordinance committee chair. This is something that is new. Traditionally, the mayor basically can attend all the committee meetings, but he's not really a chair of any particular committee.
I pulled that out of the charter, that's why. That's why it says that, yeah.
I'm surprised we've never had that, I don't believe, but
I think it's the charter of the council rules. You can table that if you want, but I'm pretty sure that's where I read it from. It doesn't make a huge difference to me on that one.
want to table it until we get clarification from the town charter? Okay, have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, let us know exactly how
Yeah,
that is.
I'm gonna, as soon as I
Okay.
get it in.
Okay, this pro temp, is that like a,
Well, that's also in the charter, it talks about you may want to do that, and based on what we ran into, there's a little conflict between the council rules and charter and the calling of a special meeting, because in the, sorry, Chris, in the charter, there is a provision that you may elect a chair or, a chairman pro temp for absence of the mayor to preside over the meetings, and that way it would save us a step when we have to call a special meeting or anything and you're not around from having to do that. So, it's, you don't have to do
Okay,
it, but it makes it, it would streamline the
okay,
process.
I would like to have, the next item C is the council rules be sent to the ordinance committee for some minor changes, that possibly this election of the chairman pro temp be brought up at that time.
I move we table 3B until, at this time, until after it goes to the ordinance committee.
Second.
That way we can get rid of the 3B.
Okay, we have a motion and seconded to table this item. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item C is town council rules by council. Town manager recommends that while these should be approved, that the council send the council rules to the ordinance committee for some changes. How would the council like to proceed on that?
That was 3C.
Yes.
We're going to have to set an ordinance committee later. Do we want to do that all at the same time, or?
Yeah, we can do that. And have that.
I'm just saying, it's item.
Oh, we can just send it to the ordinance committee and make that as an item when we set the, how would the council like to proceed?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and seconded to send the council rules for possible changes to the ordinance committee. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item D, council committee assignments. I've got a copy of last year's assignments, and if any of the councilors would like to be on any specific committee this coming year, let me know, and we'll assign those at the next council meeting. Okay, so look it over if there's any particular committee you would like to be on. We usually,
Let him know next meeting.
Oh, next meeting? Okay.
yeah, and it's usually, like, each member has 4 committees, and a couple of members have 5.
Okay, fantastic. Yep. And you need a certain amount per committee?
Yeah.
Okay.
There are spaces on a lot of
Most of them are, you got a chairman and 2 other members,
Okay, fantastic.
except for the negotiating committee. I think there's only 2.
Okay.
Okay. Item 4, presentation of any town council recognitions. We don't have any tonight. Item 5, consider minutes of previous meetings.
Don't have any tonight.
We have none tonight. Okay, item 6, receive and review correspondence and documents. Derek?
Let me go through those. Let's see, I got a resignation, planning board from Dan C. For planning board, as I said, effective immediately, so we have 2 openings to fill. The ordinance, not the ordinance, the nomination committee met earlier and has recommendations for the meeting later on. Included in your packet is Hancock County proposed budget. You'll see that there was a 1.41% increase of $72,693. They have not divided up the appropriations to each town, so I don't know whether ours is going up and down. That's coming at a later time. So just wanted you to be aware of that. You can review that on your own. For the forums on Saturday, you have the, basically it's the council internal agenda. The topics are the same in bold, but that just gives you some notes on what's going on at the meeting, on what the facilitator is going to do. And we have hired a facilitator to oversee that and run the meeting. And her name is Deb Burwell, is that correct? Thank you. Who's facilitated a couple of meetings in town. I've actually been to some across the state that she's facilitated. I think she's going to be really good for the forums going forward. And actually, we can have her do some note-taking and wrap-up and stuff like that to help us facilitate that. See a couple department head reports, the transfer station, the fire chief and police chief. And I'll get to the good stuff here coming up. Today, we went on quite a journey on USDA and our loan, and I'll mention later on in the meeting about that. But DEP has signed off on and given us consent to move forward with the secondary treatment project. The USDA is currently reviewing that, and we should hear back in a little while on what that means. So that just was a letter saying that they got they sent us a bunch of concerns they had. We got back to them, and they're happy now. And so that's that. Let me just make sure. I don't think I have anything else in that category. Nope, I'm good. Any questions?
Council, any questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Just in case some of the people watching on TV tune out early and get tired of listening, I just wanted to reiterate what was mentioned here, that there is the first of the public forums this Saturday, January 8th, 4 to 6 at the Middle School Performing Arts Center. So I'm a great believer, if you don't participate, don't just stay home and complain. Come out and participate. Give us your ideas. We're not all knowing. You all know that out there, but nonetheless, we need your help, and we're really expecting and anticipating and hopeful that you'll turn out and give us your ideas. This Saturday, 6 o'clock, middle school.
One, Council Key may have just misspoke slightly. He mentioned January 8th. He means January 10th.
That's exactly what he meant.
Doesn't say that anywhere.
Yeah. 4 to 6.
I would also just like to publicly recognize the police department for the job they did handling a very volatile situation. It was in his report here, working with a couple agencies and stuff. Chief, nice job out there. That was a situation that really came out well for the town. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on any of those items? Okay. Item 6 is to hold a public hearing on an emergency ordinance amending Town Code, Chapter 5, Building Standards and Property Maintenance. Before we hold a public hearing, Jeff, would you like to address the changes before we hold a public hearing?
Jeff Hammond, Code Enforcement Officer. The ordinance before you tonight is an amendment to Chapter 5, the Building Standards and Property Maintenance Ordinance, which currently has a permit requirement for demolitions, but it's extremely lacking on how demolitions should be conducted in Bucksport. In fact, it has no standards whatsoever that apply to demolitions. And it's a bit vague on really when a demolition permit is required. The way I've been interpreting it is that if somebody is demolishing a building that has a connection to a public sewer, and that connection is being permanently terminated, then a demolition permit is required. There's a $25 fee for that. Any other demolition currently is not subject to permitting or subject to any compliance with any standards, other than perhaps state environmental regulations. So the ordinance, the amendment to Chapter 5 clarifies when a permit's required for demolition, and it does have exceptions. The exceptions are you can demolish a residential accessory structure, a commercial or non-commercial accessory structure with less than 500 square feet of floor area, a structure that's subject to an enforcement order, a dangerous building or a dilapidated building, that can be demolished without a permit. A structure with no floor area, and a couple of examples would be chimneys and antenna towers. A structure owned by the town of Bucksport, and a mobile home. Those structures I just listed do not require a demolition permit. The standards that have been added address things that can affect abutting properties or environment, and they require screening and security measures. Lighting to ensure that the abutting properties aren't affected by any lighting that's needed. Noise standards apply. Smoke and dust standards apply. Vibration standards are looked at. How waste is disposed of is looked at. Fire and building safety standards apply. Utility protection is also required, and that's where we get into properly plugging sewer lines and things of that nature, and that electrical attachments are properly disconnected from buildings before they're demolished. Environmental hazards is another standard in there. Site stabilization, that applies if you're demolishing a building that has a basement foundation, and once you've taken all that out, there's a hole in the ground. So the standard says you need to fill that hole and properly grade it. Hours of operation are addressed. Demolitions can be conducted between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, but there's an exception that applies to those structures that do not require demolition permits. They're not subject to those hour restrictions. And the last standard that's proposed deals with traffic safety, and it simply says that trucks that are associated with the demolition activity can't park on the road, and that when they're exiting the site, they have to take measures to ensure that they're not going to track mud all over the road. The other change that's proposed is a change in the fee. Right now, the permit costs $25 regardless of what your demolition encompasses. The change proposed is a fee of $25 per structure that's being demolished. And finally, this ordinance does authorize the town council to require an environmental study if there's concern about contaminated soils or on the property, and that if the study shows there are areas of contamination, a mitigation plan is required. There's also language added to allow the town council to require a performance bond or an irrevocable letter of credit to ensure that any environmental issues are properly addressed completely, and that the demolition is completed to the satisfaction of the town. I think I've covered everything.
Okay. All right. Declare the public hearing open. Anybody like to speak on this issue?
I'm Jeff McGlynn, AIM Development Vice President, Owner's Representative for this project. Walter Griesire, also Owner's Representative, American Iron and Metal, based in Montreal. Between the two of us will be the project managers, the people running this project, and hear who you folks and everybody else in the area will be working with and seeing. We don't really have very many proposed changes, but I would offer a couple of things to have you guys consider. 5-201.4. I would ask that the very last line on that page, where it says bond, make the shall be may, would be a suggestion. And on the last
I'm
page,
sorry, what was that one you said there?
so it says about 3 sentences into it, whenever the demolition or removal of materials reasonably anticipated to exceed 1,000 cubic yards, irrevocable letter of credit or performance bond shall, our suggestion would be make that may. And that's consistent with the sentences preceding it, as well as 5-201.3. The language would then be consistent. And the second suggestion is on the last page, 5.3.11, hours of operation. We think that hours and days are a bit restricted. So the suggestion would be the second to the last sentence, 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, unless with council approval on some alternate plan that we would bring to you. And the only other thing I would offer up, if it was something that the group would consider tonight, to table and have a discussion with whoever would be appointed to go section by section, we'd offer that up as a potential option for your group tonight as well. I think just in closing, we're very familiar with a bunch of these language additions, changes. It's very, very similar to a project that I'm coming from for AIM Development, in talking with Derek as well as Dave. We know your town leaders, maybe some of you folks have had communication with the town leaders in some of our previous projects over the last 3 or 4 years. And this language is something that we've worked with, helped develop over those past couple of projects.
Anything else? No. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this? Council like to say anything on this before I close the public hearing? Okay. Declare the public hearing closed. Item 8, new ordinances to be considered. Consider resolve R 2015-63 to approve the following. Shall an emergency ordinance entitled Emergency Ordinance Amending Town Code, Chapter 5, Building Standards and Property Maintenance be enacted? Said ordinance amended the Town Code, Chapter 5, Building Standards and Property Maintenance by adding the underlined language and deleting the strike-through language, and said ordinance shall take effect immediately upon approval of Town Council, and such standards found in the changes shall be retroactive back to December 30th, 2014. How would the council like to proceed?
Mr. Mayor, I had a question of the AIM representative. When does the demolition expected to start?
We're developing that plan right now. If I had to put a date, let's say 6 months from today would be some demolition. We have engineering to do to better understand the power plant, what the power plant island looks like moving forward, what's the most efficient mode to operate the power plant, what portions of the power plant, and how the power plant today ties to some of the paper mill assets that we don't envision running. So we have some technical work to do to get that reviewed and understood before any demolition would take place.
When would you be applying for the first permits?
A portion of this document says there would be a plan provided to the town to summarize what our work would be involving in terms of demolition over the next couple of months. From close, anticipated business sale close next week Friday, we would be developing this plan to present to you in the next 2 months. So right away to start to plan. We're starting to plan today.
Thank you.
How would the council like to proceed?
I move for approval as presented of resolved R 2015-63.
Second.
We have motion and second to approve the resolve as presented. Anything further from the public? Further from the council? Noting your request for possible changes, if this is enacted tonight, that doesn't mean that minor changes can't be conducted in a timely fashion. It's basically, what I feel is we need to get something on the books. It doesn't sound like there's a lot here that you really have objection to, maybe some tweaking here and there, and it sounds like we're going to have some time to do this. And this basically is just to put something in our ordinances to basically get started with, I guess, and make sure that we're protected as well as the people doing the demolition. So I don't think what you presented, I don't think is really any giant obstacles, but I think we have time to modify it through the regular process. I think that's, my feeling is that we need to get something on the books now, and then we can tweak it from there, I believe. That's my feelings on it. Any other comment from any of the councilors? Anybody? Go ahead.
The reason that we are doing this, amending this one, is for this this demolition, right? Is that,
This is the first time any demolition of this magnitude has
Okay.
taken place in this town.
okay,
It isn't like tearing down your shed in the backyard.
yeah, understandable, okay, fantastic.
Mayor, I have
Yes,
a
sir.
question. On the 5.311.1, the wording there, I mean, really, unless we go into a huge issue, that can't be changed. I mean, by adding the wording, unless otherwise agreed by the council, that's a minor change that I think gives us that latitude to change or make an agreement. Right, the way it's written, I don't think we have that right, do we?
No, unless we pass this with that change tonight.
But we can change any wording on any ordinance in the future through the normal
Okay.
acting on other.
That's all, yeah.
That's what.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was
We
asking.
can add that.
Okay.
If we want, we can even schedule it later on in the meeting to revisit the issue. too.
Yes, sir?
Sorry to interrupt, I agree with you, sir. With the changes that I proposed, I believe it gives the council the ability to enact at a council meeting rather than an ordinance change.
Correct, but that's not what we're saying. We're saying that in the language that if we pass this tonight the way it's written, we can then revisit the ordinance with you presenting your suggested language. We could have discussion, and if that's what we decide to do, we can change that 3 or 4 lines of that particular section that way, and which would then put the language, if we made the change, that would allow us to do it. The point is that the mechanism of changing an ordinance is simply, it goes to an ordinance committee, it's discussed, the recommendation is made, and the council will then vote on changing just that section as under the language that you have proposed, which would still, if it goes through, would then do what you just said. It would make the change to the time something we could do in a council meeting. But that's for future discussion. We're just trying to get an ordinance on the books, and if there's needed discussion, we'll have that between now and whenever you said you were going to start. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments from anybody?
Changing shall to may not be a minor tweaking, but that's a
Yeah.
discussion to have a
We'll
little
discuss
later
it.
on. Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments from anybody? Anything further from council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Over the course of the next few weeks, we can send this to the ordinance committee with recommendations, and that would be sit down into a committee format, and you can present the changes you'd like at that time. But right now, this is something that's on the book as the ordinance.
We'd like to be involved in
Yes, okay.
whatever planning session that is, however,
Okay.
Mayor, Derek, however you get those times and dates set,
Okay,
we'll be there.
all right. Yes,
Could I
Jeff?
ask the council to clarify when the effective date of this ordinance is?
December, retroactive back to December 30th, 2014. I believe that's what it said on the...
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the question.
Item 9, right?
Yes.
Item 9, discussion items. Managers' clarification and direction or council discussions or input on issues. The first one is Wilson Hall. Dawn, you
Do you have anything?
don't have anything on Wilson Hall tonight?
There's nothing new tonight, but I hope before the last meeting of this month, that we'll have some new and exciting news with regard to moving ahead on Wilson Hall.
All right, thank you. Item B, mill update and related actions. Derek?
I don't have really much. We know that there's a pending lawsuit with the Machinist Union. You heard Mr. McGlynn mention that the closing, there was some question at our special meeting about whether the closing was gonna be this Friday, but it's supposed to be next Friday. If, you know, there's nothing that the courts do to, change that. Beyond that, of course, you know, the governor's, filed something to deal with the energy contract. I don't know what that will turn out to be, and also, of course, the Machinist Union's severance package lawsuit was dismissed by the judge. But as for Verso itself, I don't have anything new, except for that we do have a couple gentlemen in our crowd tonight from AIM, and when I talked to Jeff McGlynn earlier today, I said if that's the route that we're going to take, that we're going to try to partner up and work for the redevelopment of that site and try to put people back to work in the town of Bucksport. So,
You, are you located in Bucksport now? I mean, you have offices here now?
On the Verso site.
Okay. And very soon we'll be able to have regular communications?
Monday, Friday, every week.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Where are they, down at the Bucksport Energy building?
they're in the brick one, I think.
Are you in the training center? Is that where you're going to be located?
Yes.
Okay. I assume there'll still be security at the main gate,
Yes.
so we'll have to go through. We just can't walk in and say hi.
Get you your own private pass as mayor.
Okay. All right, item C, discussion of a CEO, of the CEO taking action, legal action in the enforcement of an illegal junkyard in Bucksport. Jeff?
Thank you. It's not often I come to the council for this reason. In fact, when I identify a violation of our town code, I make every possible effort I can to get voluntary compliance. And I tried to do that in this case here, but was unsuccessful. The issue involves a junkyard that's located on Silver Lake Road, 993 Silver Lake Road. And this actually is the second time I've been before you for a violation that involves this property and the same person. Back in 2006, I identified an automobile graveyard at this location, and as I do with every violation, I tried to work with, to get voluntary compliance, but was unsuccessful there as well. And I came before you 9 years ago, almost to the date, to ask for authorization to go to court, and you did authorize that. Unfortunately, I never did have to file a complaint in district court because I continued to work with the person responsible after that, and about 6 months after that date, we managed to get compliance, and all the junk cars were removed from the property. This issue, the junkyard, came to my attention in January. I started receiving complaints from neighbors about the unsightly appearance of the front yard, and I sent a couple of letters actually, that I received no replies. So my third action was to do a site visit. I took the police department along with me as backup, just in case I wasn't certain what kind of reception I would get. Fortunately, there were no issues there, but I did communicate with Scott Fields, who's the person here who's operating this junkyard, and over the course of the spring and the summer and fall, we tried to work out an arrangement where the junk items would be removed and properly disposed of. In late fall, I began to get indications that Mr. Fields wasn't really interested in working with me anymore. He wouldn't answer my phone calls. He wouldn't. We would schedule an appointment to do a site visit to check on the progress, and then that would be canceled. That happened a couple of times. And as I said, when he stopped returning my calls, I noticed that he was continuing the activity, in fact, increasing the activity. There's more items being brought into the property. When I got to that point, I realized that I wasn't going to get voluntary compliance. So I issued a violation notice. He had 30 days to remove the junkyard, and he failed to do that. And that's pretty much why I'm here before you tonight, because I failed to get voluntary compliance. And I do have some photos I want to show you, in case you're not familiar with the property, just so you have an idea of what the issue is here. Kathy, could you get the right light switch? I'll take care of it.
He gets all fancy on me. I don't know how to operate that.
The first one, I've just highlighted on our zoning map where the property is located. The gray shaded area is the Route 1, Rural 1 Development Corridor, R1 DCR for short. All the gray shaded areas, so the property is in that zoning district. And in our land use ordinance, junkyards are identified as a land use. In the R1 district, they're allowed, subject to planning board approval, except this note J1 says that the land use is not allowed in the R1 DCR, R1 SL, or R1 DC sections of the rural 1 district. So that makes it a prohibited use in on the property that we're speaking about tonight. And this is a satellite view, just putting things in perspective about where the property is. This is the property here. You can see all these surrounding properties are residential properties. In fact, this is a subdivision, which I'll talk about in a minute. All residential here, residential here. It's definitely a residential neighborhood. This is from August of 2013. This picture is also courtesy of Google Earth that was taken in August of 2011, giving you sort of a partly screened view of the front yard, the vegetation blocks quite a bit. But as you can see, in 2011, it was a well-kept property. The front yard was neat. And the other section, this is a little bit harder to see. This is the other side of the front yard, but you can see the lawn area in here, free of any debris whatsoever. It seems to be mowed and taken care of. That was in 2011. 2013, before it was brought to my attention, you can see that there's the beginning of a junkyard back here. This is a swimming pool, by the way, just to reference you. The front yard still looks relatively clean, but there's some things starting to build up over here and over here. And there's some stuff back in here which you can't see because of the tree cover. One of my site visits I conducted after I contacted Mr. Fields with his permission. I did a site visit on July 1st and took some photographs. And this is looking back towards the house, which is right here. You can see a lot of collection of building materials, just a wide assortment of items. And down here, there's more. That picture was taken on July 1st, as were these two. Again, just to give you an idea of what I was looking at back in July. There were a lot more tires too, by the way, that were stored there at the time that I didn't have a good shot of. So in November, when I wasn't getting any response from Mr. Fields, I went out to pay him another visit. I parked in the driveway and went up to the door and didn't get an answer. Nobody's home at the time, but while I was there, took a couple photos showing he's starting to collect vehicles now. These are to the right of the driveway, and these are in the front yard on the other side. Just a couple more shots that I took on that same day, showing things that are still there. Things have been moved around a little bit in the lower picture. It's hard to see with snow cover, but there's still a considerable collection of junk. These photos were taken just a few days ago. Still have items over here to the left of the house, and items up in here, and you can see there's stuff everywhere. I didn't go to the backyard on that day, because my feeling is I'm not welcome on the property at this point in time. I mentioned that the property is in a residential subdivision, and junkyards, by the way, are subject to setback requirements. A junkyard can be located any closer than 500 feet to a residential dwelling, and I've drawn a picture here to show you that there are 3 homes that are less than 500 feet from the junkyard. It also requires, the ordinance requires junkyards to be at least 750 feet from wells. I couldn't identify that because I don't know where the wells are, but I'm willing to bet there are several wells in this area here, not just on Silver Lake Road, but also on Crossroads that are less than 750 feet from Mr. Field's property.
But the underlying is it can't have a big junkyard in the area anyway, regardless of what these other setback rules are, correct?
That's right, in this district, right, yeah. But the reason why I'm talking about the subdivision is because, and again, what I did here is I drew the 500-foot setbacks from this house and this house and this house to show you what he has available, if he even could have a junkyard there, what available space he has there, which is just a little bit in here. All this area here is within the setbacks from this house, this house. The subdivision plan specifically says that these lots are for residential dwellings only. And he did, he actually came to my office after he received the violation notice and asked if there's some possible way we could find a solution to allow this junkyard to stay. And first I thought there might be a way to do it, perhaps through a contract zone agreement. But when I started to dig in deeper into the file, I discovered then that the subdivision affected his property, and it would take an amendment to the subdivision to allow a junkyard on this property. And I invited him to come to the planning board meeting, which was going to be held just a few days after that, the meeting I had with him. And he actually did go to the planning board meeting and spoke with them, expressed his interest in keeping the junkyard. But the impression he got from them was that they would probably not be receptive to approving an amendment to the subdivision. Contract zone, I don't think contract zoning is appropriate to use here, mainly because we're talking about a junkyard in a residential subdivision that can't have an adverse impact on the abutting properties. Not just the water wells, but also property values could be impacted by a junkyard that's not properly cared for, and this one is not. So my request to you this evening is to grant me the authority to file a complaint in district court to enforce our town code. And I know Mr. Fields is here this evening, and I think he would like to speak to you as well. Any questions?
So would this require counsel, or is this or what, in order to file the complaint? Would you have to get an attorney in order to file the complaint?
Yes, the resolve is worded so that you would allow me to utilize the town's attorney to assist me in filing the paperwork for the it's an 80K, Rule 80K complaint in district court.
I understand.
Yeah.
And so I assume that, and I'm certainly going to wait and hear from Mr. Fields, but I assume that Mr. Fields might well be held responsible for any court costs that this has to go through.
Yes, yes. We would certainly ask for costs and fines.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fields?
Evening.
Hi.
Wanted to congratulate the new members here. Also. And as slow as I talk, stutter and everything else, rather than take a long time getting through what I want to say, I wrote up 3 pages for you to read of my concerns and thoughts on what's going on. And I was wondering if I could hand these out to you and you could read it easier than you could listen to me. If that would,
Yeah, that's
you'd be
acceptable.
comfortable with that?
Copies for everybody.
Yeah. The last 4 months. The 4th page is a definition that Jeff gave me of the junkyard code.
Right.
That's one of the biggest points that I want to make in this. And one thing I would really like to bring up before you start reading is when Mr. Hammond first came up, he made it sound like my neighbors reported me, when what he told me was a completely different thing. He told me it was anonymous. I take that as a lie to start with. If he'd told me who the neighbor was that turned me in, pretty good chance I could have talked to the neighbor about this. But he lied and said that it was anonymous. He didn't have it on record who told him. So in my eyes, that's a lie, and that's not right. I've always gone out of my way to work with people. He neglected to tell you how much I tried to work with him on this problem right from the start, which included 4 or 5 huge trailer loads of scrap metal from riding lawnmowers, especially, mostly, that I got rid of, that I could have used parts, but I decided, okay, I'll do my thing, and had friends help me out a lot, but he neglected to mention that, so it's not like I gave up. So you could go ahead and read the letter and
Mr. Field, your contention is you don't have a junkyard, right?
According to my basis of what he has for a junkyard definition, no, not at all. In his eye, his mind, there's no question. The 3 or 4 times that he came out when this all started, I tried to talk to him about, you know, what he considers an item to be junk and what I consider it, and trying to establish some kind of basis of what I need to actually get rid of or what I can actually honestly reuse for useful projects. And it was getting better and better, but the last thing that I know irritated him, which he told me it did, was that the last date that he was supposed to come out to update the inspection, I couldn't make it. I was ill, and it was a real bad weather week that week, that first bad storm we had. And just because I did not get back with him in a timely fashion, he thought that I was giving up. I wasn't giving up. And when he says that things got worse out in front of the house, we're talking a camper trailer that's perfectly fine to go camping with, a boat that's perfectly okay to go boating in, a rod and lawnmower that, and if you wanted to come out, I'd fire them all right up for you and show you that they're fine, good operating. I got rid of all of the junk, in his mind, junk rod and lawnmowers earlier that year, and if I had to get rid of these new ones that run fine, the end result would, I would go to the town of Frankfort where I grew up and said, you people want every bit of my stuff, and I would donate every single item that I had. If that's the way he feels about this. And I would move it out of Bucksport because I can't take it much longer. I've tried to help people for many years since I've been here in Bucksport, and it's not only a hobby, it makes me feel good to help people that are in need a lot, and I've done it an awful lot. And at the same time, I'm trying to do what's right here, but Mr. Hammond should not be the sole person that decides what you have on your property that is considered junk, no good in his mind. And as far as this mapping thing, he deceived you that our property goes back a lot farther back here. And if I got the tape measure out, and I can assure you, back further from where he was talking about would fall under the guidelines that he described, setbacks between wells, residential, and everything else. But if I have to prove that, I will. But the key here in my mind is what his definition of a junkyard really is. The words that are written on this, that we all have to go by. And I don't have trash laying around. I'm not like that. I have my trash barrels down the end of the driveway, and we take our trash out, and there's no trash laying around. It's all items that run, operate fine, and smaller items that can be used for other useful things that are not going into the ground. And I can have people out there verifying that, if that's what it would take. There's no chemicals or anything going in the ground. It's not like it's a business. It's not a business whatsoever. It's a hobby. And it's I like to do it. And I guess my question to you people is what I should do next. If I have to go further involved with the state officials that have control over this situation, well, I guess that's what I'll have to do. But I gotta know where to start. I gotta know who to talk to. This is way above my head. And there's a lot of other things that I just wrote this up today, but there's so many other things that I could say that I can't remember. And I just need someone to at least give me other options of how to correct this.
Would you allow Mr. Hammond to come out and take pictures of everything that's on your property so we can have a look at it, to figure out where we stand? Because
I would even allow Mr. Hammond. He knows. He mentioned that he didn't think he felt.
that's why I'm asking.
I felt comfortable.
Yeah.
I've told him many, many times. I've never said don't ever come out here. Never.
Because I
And-
think by what you're going by for a definition of what a junkyard says.
Yeah.
I think with some of the pictures that he had, I think it would do us better if we could see a better layout of what everything is there, and not just a snapshot of a picture from a side of a driveway, but actually take some photos of everything that's out there so we can see if there's appliances, and we can see if there's junk stuff that's listed here. Is that acceptable to you?
I would accept, yes, I would agree to that. And another big thing with me is why would the town, especially now with the mill going down, when there's got to be rebudgeting, why would the town want to spend money on legal small stuff like this and your time?
Well, you gotta be careful. Small stuff adds up, and if you don't attack the small stuff and take care of the small stuff, it turns into big stuff. So I can appreciate what you're thinking, but you gotta be careful. A lot of small things will add up to big things. So we do have to look at these things as they come in, even if they're small compared to the mill shutting down and everything else. We gotta be careful that we don't just push those things aside.
Okay, and the comment that I made regarding down the road, if this gets out of hand and with his guidelines.
Well, that's why, let us do a little bit more investigating then, okay? That's what I'm asking. If that's comfortable for you
Yeah.
and it's comfortable for the rest of the council,
And it's
let's
not
do-
like Scott Fields has been saying, no way, don't forget it, don't ever show up here. That's not me.
Oh, I can appreciate that. Like I say, let's,
Yeah.
that's what I would recommend. If that's something that we can all agree with, then let's look at it that way. Because I don't know if I got a full sense of what's actually on the property by looking at some of those snapshot pictures. And I think if I saw more of what was there, it may give me a better idea, be able to explain one way or the other what's there. And maybe work
Okay.
together and figure what's going on.
Well, it does look like he's been gathering more stuff over the years. Is there gonna be a time when you consider yourself full on that property? Or are you just gonna keep collecting?
Well, that was part of the letter was, I'll admit, one of my downfalls is organization, yes. But so ain't we all. I mean,
But if there's things you can get rid of, why not get rid of it? Why just keep gathering it and gathering it and gathering it?
I do get rid of things. People can't say that I don't, because I do. And yes, if you're driving by, well, Jesus, does he ever get rid of anything? Well, yes, I do. all the time, and I know people that can verify that. Many people that I've given stuff to, and if that's what it needs to happen, is to me having to have these people verify that for me. I can do that too. And I can go on and get more evidence on my behalf, but it's just that the way the language is written on the junkyard guidelines, that to me is the key factor in this whole thing. Is it's not a business, and the way I read the guidelines, it doesn't fit my situation. It just
But also, the subdivision specifically says for residential dwellings, you may consider that all you have there is a residential dwelling, but other people in that subdivision may feel that, no, you don't have just a residential dwelling. There's other locations in town that you're allowed to do exactly what you're doing. I don't know if you have any means or any other locations in town that you own that you could be conducting this same type of activity.
no. But then again, what's considered, they're my personal items, just like you or anyone else has. Like, yes, I may have much more than a lot of people, but they're still personal items. They're still personal property. I'm not selling them. I help people out most of the time, and it's just a hobby that I enjoy doing. And
I think Councilor
So
Stewart
much-
has the right idea. If we can get some more information, we'd be willing to relook at this. The issue and the argument of my personal property and I'm not selling or doing anything with them is a situation that has been addressed by a lot of towns, several fairly recently, in the state, and they've been fairly well publicized. That argument is an argument that has been well fought out in the courts. But before we go to that extent, I would agree with Councilor Stewart, is that I'd like to see some additional pictures so we can make a better informed decision on whatever we're going to do. And I have no idea what that'll be, but I'm just saying we need to see the pictures, because if we're forced to make a decision tonight, I don't think it would be the best decision we could make. I would rather get the information before we make a decision. And I think that's about as far as we can go right now, if the rest of the council agrees. That we need that information before we can make a decision.
okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Go
I'm
ahead.
okay with that.
I had a question, not for you, Mr. Fields, yet anyways. Jeff, in here you mentioned junkyards, but the accumulation of unregistered vehicles there makes me think of automobile junkyard, automobile recycling, but that wasn't cited in here yet. Is that because it's something that has just started to accumulate?
Well, actually, the notice of violation I issued does reference the violation of the automobile graveyard. I did mention that in the resolve, because I haven't been able to verify the status of those vehicles that you can see from the road, and a couple of them behind me. I haven't get close enough to them to determine if they're unlicensed or uninspected, unregistered or uninspected. That's the definition of a junk vehicle.
Right. I thought it was 2 or more unregistered vehicles. 3 or more? Okay.
But that's part of the violation notice as well.
Okay.
The findings are there.
All right.
And that part of the situation doesn't even bother me at all, because that's not gonna, it's not gonna turn into a automobile junkyard, and I can take care of that issue very quickly. It's just all the other items that if you had a riding lawnmower, that you had a flat tire or a bad motor or whatever, I mean, would you just, most people can't afford to just take it to the junkyard and go buy a new one. And that's what I'm all about, is helping people out that, and it's gonna happen a lot more, I got an idea, is people around this area aren't gonna be able to afford to just go buy a new motor or a lawnmower blade or whatever.
But on one other topic, Mr. Hammond is not obliged to give up a name of somebody who calls in. No town official is, of somebody who makes a formal complaint. We are not in a position, any one of the people that work for this town, to divulge somebody's name. So,
Okay, if that's the way it is, I understand
yeah,
that,
we-
but the way he put it to
I'm
me
sure
was
you wouldn't
he
want
didn't-
somebody giving your name out either.
No,
so.
but, no, but
Right.
he told me right to my face that it was anonymous.
Right.
He didn't know who it was. If he'd have said, yes, but I can't give you the name, I would have been okay with that, but he didn't say that. He said it was anonymous.
Well, just a way of saying it, I guess.
Okay, but if you can make arrangements with him to get those pictures, and we'll get it back in front of us, and we'll go from there, I would assume, assuming the rest of the council agrees with that.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I think that, obviously, I agree with the picture idea, and I appreciate your willingness to have Mr. Hammond do that. And perhaps you could call him tomorrow and give him some dates that are convenient for you and what dates are convenient for him, and you can work that out so at the next council meeting we can have that information. But I had a question of the code enforcement officer very quickly. When you deal with definitions, sometimes you get stuck with them. I'm not sure, I am sure, I don't understand what the last 5 or 6 letters in the words in the definition are, whether scrap ferrous or non-ferrous material. What is that? I see we have the experts here.
I was gonna say, you got one steal right there.
Too late, it's all gone.
So what falls into that category, Jeff, just generally speaking?
Iron scrap.
Iron scrap, okay. Okay, I can see why the expertise came up here. But it seems to me if a judge is looking at this, he's going to say, well, what items does this fall under, that you're kind of stuck with these definitions here? I saw a lot of tires out there. I don't see any tires listed here as being part of a junkyard, for example. So, I mean, I think that you have to fit within the definition. And I could just see a judge saying, well, okay, is there junk lumber out there? Is there older scrap copper, brass rope rags, so on? So
I
you
think
could,
I would describe tires as rubber debris, which is listed.
rubber debris is listed? Okay, I stand corrected. That, good enough. But you get my point. It has to fit within the definition when you're stuck.
I showed these pictures to the planning board when Mr. Fields came to them to give them an idea of what I'm dealing with. And my comment to them was, if this isn't the junkyard, I don't know what is. And they all agreed at that point.
Well, their agreement's good, but it still has to fit within the definition. And what I'm hearing you saying is that you have made a decision that it does. And I'm not debating that. That's just, okay, thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else, Ms. Field? Okay, thank you.
Can I ask one more? Hey, Jeff, if you have, because I was looking at the definition here, it looks like if that was all your stuff was put inside of a large garage building, would that, because it talks about the junkyard being, not counting the cars, it says a yard, field, or other outside area used to store, dismantle, or otherwise handle, and then it gets into all the A, B, and C's. And then it talks about ordinary view, seen or observed without the aid of magnified provided binoculars, telescopes, similar optical equipment. If that's inside of your large garage or something, is that no longer a junkyard?
People have garages all the time on their residential properties, including in subdivisions, and they're perfectly allowed to store whatever items they want to in those buildings. The point about what Mr. Fields is doing is he's doing something of a commercial nature. Now, he doesn't feel it's a business activity, but he does accept items from people and does exchange. He has a bartering arrangement, and that's a commercial activity when you're exchanging something for equal or more value. And he also is collecting a lot of things that just have no value, and then they're just sitting there and sinking into the ground. He can call them personal property, and in fact they are, but the activity that I'm identifying there has a commercial nature to it because of what he's doing, because of his interactions with the public. And as it was noted by the mayor, this is a residential subdivision that can only be used for residential purposes. What did you provide the council members with copies of my memo to you about the actions I've taken?
The different dates that you
Yeah.
visited,
Yeah.
yep, they have that in the
I just wanted to
result.
point out that this clarifies that I've done everything possible, taking a considerable amount of time, by the way, to get voluntary compliance. So the claim that I haven't been working with Mr. Fields, I think, is disproven by my timeline of the town force and what I've done to get voluntary compliance.
I got one last question real quick. On your letter, it says Scott Fields and Alan Farnsworth property owner. Is Mr. Fields a property owner? or
No,
is it
Alan Farnsworth is a property owner. Mr. Fields has a contract to purchase the property.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
And both, by the way, but Mr. Farnsworth has also been notified. He is on the notice of violation as a property owner, and he was notified of this meeting tonight as well.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am,
Hi,
you mind
I'm Scott's wife.
would you mind coming up to the podium?
Sure. The only, I'm just gonna be really brief, but, I've known Jeff for quite a while. And he says that he did everything to make this work. Back in August of this year, I went to him, told him that, Scott and I had separated and I was no longer living at the house. But that it's still my house too. We're not divorced, and that I would like to keep apprised of what was happening. And that sometimes I can, get Scott to, say, contact someone, easier than, he might put it aside and his kids and I will keep reminding him he needs to do that. So I gave Jeff my cell phone number, let him know where I was living, and asked him to contact me if he felt like he wasn't hearing from Scott. I never heard from Jeff. This is the first thing. I'm not saying Scott hasn't gotten letters from him or anything. I'm saying I never heard from him after I came in, specifically spoke with him, told him that maybe I could help, with the communication part of it. I was the person that he spoke to originally when he came out with the police. And so I have been involved in it, in the fact that the communication part of it. But then I feel like Jeff, you're saying you've done everything, but it might have made a difference to contact me. And when we talked that day, I thought you were in agreement with that also. So I just want to dispute that. And what I would like is communication. Like, if you're gonna go out and take pictures, and then come back, is there a way that we get notified that you're going to put this in front of the council again?
Yes.
Were you notified, Scott? That's where I'm confused. You just said Alan was notified. Do you know if Alan was? No, you don't know?
May I speak to that?
Yeah.
There were letters sent to both Scott and Mr. Carr.
About tonight?
About this meeting tonight, yes, I think I sent it out last week, about a week ago. You didn't get it? Check with Alan, see if you got it, because they were sent to both parties.
If Alan had gotten his, Alan would have been down at our house and spoken to Scott. I'm really convinced of that, you know, because we really try to stay on Scott
I have a
about
copy of the letter
things.
here dated December 30th to inform Mr. Fields of the meeting tonight, and the copy was sent to Alan Farnsworth.
Okay. Is there any other way to, I mean, I don't know what happened. I mean, I don't pick up the mail, so I don't know, but it was
We
just
can
kind
have-
of a fluke that we heard about today.
Do we have your mailing address?
No. But you can have it.
If you give your mailing address, any future correspondence will be sent to you also as a,
Okay.
you're the property owner too?
I'm the wife.
I know that.
Yeah, my
okay.
name is on the, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I take no responsibility for what's happening there because I'm not there right now, except for the fact that I am still his wife and I can help in some ways. I can't fix it, but I can help with communication and stuff. And I feel like that didn't happen.
So could you call the town office?
Yeah, I can,
Or give
Yeah.
your phone number and address to Kathy? And
Sure.
we'll be sure that you get any
I would
further
appreciate that.
correspondence.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, this is basically, does anybody else have anything to say on this item?
I just,
Go
I
ahead.
just have a, just wondering if Scott's been told what he does need to be, have removed and whatnot, if he has a list or how that works. How do you know what it takes to come in compliance, I guess, would be what materials he can keep there or whatnot.
Well, I guess we'll have to make that decision.
After they get the pictures and
After we
stuff,
get
we
the
review it
pictures, yeah.
again.
Okay.
And again,
Yeah.
then it's interpretation.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, this is just basically a discussion item on this, and it sounds like we basically not going to take any action at this time. And a consensus on getting further data and pictures? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, going to do that?
And we can table that when we get to it.
Okay, yep.
One other quick question or comment on this, and then we move on. Is it, and I'll ask Derek, when we send out these notices and things like that, do we not send those out certified mail through the offices here?
I think we do on some, it depends. I don't know if we send them
The
all.
notice of violation was sent out by certified and regular mail too, actually.
And that got accepted at the same address that you sent this note to? That you sent this?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
So I don't know if we do them all, the
No, I
reminders
was
will
just
follow
curious if
us
we had
at
the same address and it got
violations we do.
certified
Yeah.
for the notice, was the same address that you sent it to this last
I'm
letter?
using the correct address.
Yeah, oh, thanks.
Okay. Item D, streetlight policy for Bucksport. Managers' questions.
I get somewhat an answer to this or whatever, but it was kind of like it's unofficial, it's unwritten or whatever, but I have somebody that came to me, and I think it's on a private road anyways, but I figured if I'm gonna get more questions related to streetlights on my desk, I'd like to be able to just give a simple yes or no answer. This one happens to be on a dark curve, if you will, on a road, and I believe it's a private road. That I don't think we put any streetlights on private roads. What Dwayne told me is maybe at intersections is about the only place that we place them. I want to make sure, and now see, you're saying yes, but Byron's complicating here, now saying, kind of. So I just want an idea, when people, have you guys handle those as a council when the request comes in? Because it has, ongoing expenses to it. It isn't as simple as we put it in and then it doesn't keep adding up, and then where does it stop is sometimes, the question that you get into.
We just put a few of them up last year.
Well, I know we did it in
Intersection.
46.
But
Yeah.
usually the request comes into the town council, and the council will approve or deny it,
All right.
depending on
Yeah,
the
it goes-
location
usually-
and how it affects the public.
Usually goes to street and road.
Right.
Street and road makes it just like everything else, and we'll look at them.
All right.
And there are, generally, it's intersections. Private roads, we had a bunch this last time, or some that were on private roads that we elected not to, and there was one or two that were on in-town roads that were not at an intersection, but were like the one on Mechanic Street right above the post office and that area.
It's on
So that's
town
why I was
road,
going
town street
like
though.
this.
Right, but so it's either in a town or state intersection, but not on a private
Private
road
road,
up some end.
Right.
That'd be up to the private owner or the association. All right, I just want to make sure on that one. All right,
All
good.
set?
Yep, I
Okay.
just wanted to make it clear.
Item E, discussion of administration section of town code, discussion of holiday pay for temporary employees.
Yeah, Dwayne's not here, but Tracy brought this to me while we went through a series of holidays here, and apparently this has changed at some point. I didn't get the exact date, but some of the people that are on our payroll have been paid, some of our temporary employees, for holidays, and of course Tracy went to process them and was setting up the new people and noticed, well, wait a second, what's the policy say? If you look, it says temporary employees work on a non-permanent basis, usually within a limited time frame. They're not entitled to benefits except those mandated, including workers' comp, unemployment, and FICA. Then under holidays, on that bottom page, 2.1.2, regular part-time employees holidays, that last sentence, temporary on-call and project employees shall not be entitled to paid holidays. Well, it's in the town code, so it's fairly much black and white for me that even these guys that have been getting it aren't supposed to.
Right.
So I didn't know if you wanted to refer this to the ordinance committee for some discussion, or you just want to say it is the code, and that's what it is.
As far as I'm concerned, it is what it is. If someone was incorrectly paid, shame on us.
This time.
And we just make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, no, I don't think it was this time. I think it was last time, and we didn't pay him, so it became an issue of why.
But
And,
as far as I know, we have never paid those type of things to our temporary employees. I don't, other than the mandated ones.
And the other question is, and Byron, and what gets interesting is we hire these guys for a 40-hour week, and all of a sudden a holiday pops up in that week, and I think that's part of the problem, is that when they were hired, they were told they were going to get full-time or 40 hours a week, and all of a sudden, in this particular week, they only get 32 because of the holiday, unless it snowed, of course. So,
I think it needs to be a better job on the managers to make sure that they explain exactly what
Well,
they're being
I-
hired for.
well, that's what I'm thinking too, but I kind of
Why are they working
jumped
a
into
holiday?
it. They wouldn't unless it snowed, but the thing
Oh,
is
okay.
that when they were hired, it was talked about 40 hours a week, not thinking about it when the holiday hits, it's gonna cut that down to 32. I agree
Time
with
for them to
the
think about it.
counselor. Yeah,
Time for them to think about it.
Yeah.
make sure they get that.
so, all right, thanks, guys.
Okay, we're going on to item 10, agenda items. Consider resolve R 2015-64 to approve poll permit.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, on this item, I would like to move that we deny this item, and until future things are corrected, we deny all future poll permits for CMP. We have been trying for almost 6 months to get CMP to repair that tremendous trip hazard we have in the middle of our sidewalk by the Historical Society. And they have totally ignored us. They've just blown us off, left it there. We've had a number of seniors who have tripped on that, myself included. I don't know if I'm a senior yet, but myself included. And they will not do anything. They won't return calls. They won't fix it. The only way we can get them to stop is to bring some pressure on them. And as far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't get any poll permits until that's fixed.
I don't totally disagree with you, but again, replacing these poles are basically, they're replacing because the poles are,
Then they're gonna have to.
I'm getting to the
then they're
point
gonna-
where-
It'll take their crew 2 hours with 2 or 3 people to fix that problem. If you remember, just history a little bit on CMP, when we rebuilt the church road, the initial rebuild on the church road had a design with a curve in it. And it turned out that there was a pole that was going to need to be removed after we'd started construction. And we asked CMP to move that pole, and they told us it would be a minimum of 6 months before they could be bothered to get in here and move a pole. so we redesigned the curve and worked around it. That's the kind of attitude CMP has. They're a monopoly, they can do what they doggone well please, and they do, and we need, the only leverage we have is something like this.
The only trouble is, if you deny pole permits, they're changing these for a safety reason, why the
Yes,
pole is
yes,
bad.
yes.
And I can see your point, but I don't know as I would say to deny them changing the pole if something happened down the road.
I agree. That's what I feel.
That's a
I don't-
safety, it's a safety issue.
I don't disagree
Yeah.
with writing a very strong letter to them.
It won't do any good. We tried, Derek, how many times did you call it?
Well,
DEP?
it was the DOT that
DOT.
because he said I'd handle it, and he said he's talked to them several times, they still haven't been there, so, because I thought about going to buy some Quickcrete and just rounding it over that spot at least so it isn't,
Where is it?
rough. It's right near, the, train
Yeah,
station,
right in
right?
front of the Historical Society towards
There's
the
a-
Harbor View.
there's a
There used to be a
pole in
pole
the
right in the middle of the
sidewalk. Oh, okay,
sidewalk.
yeah.
And they took it out, cut it off,
Yeah.
took it out, and they left the lip about yay high.
And it's jagged, like, you
Yeah.
know,
And it's ridiculous. And I agree that their pole permits are for a safety hazard, but we have no pressure, we have no way, and letters, CMP is totally impervious to what, anything we may say to them. They don't care. So I think the only way that we can do it is deny it. Maybe it'll wake one person up to send one small crew down here for a couple of hours.
Go ahead, Paul.
Mayor, sir, can we put it in the resolve? That work?
I don't know.
I'm just,
If it's in resolve, they won't necessarily see it in the permit.
I guess if you guys
Can
want,
that
if
be
you
put on the
approve it,
permit?
you want to just put the caveat in there, I'll give them a heads up that if, you know, we approve this, but there's discussion, we won't approve any future ones if they do not take care of this,
If they don't take care of it in
Pole
a
and the
certain period of
sidewalk.
time, we will and send them the bill.
you know, well, yeah, we'll repair it, send them the bill or whatever, yeah, I mean, they might
Is that
say,
right?
go ahead and try.
I don't have much faith in the PUC, but I don't know if you'd call the PUC and get anywhere with them or not.
I don't know. Let me see if I can get a hold of a couple of my contacts, even if they're from the southern part of the state, maybe they can wrap around, because they're usually pretty good about stuff like that, except for poles on the side of the road and things like that. Yeah, they're usually good about fixing a light or something like that, but I agree, they're not always the most active when it comes to removing.
Would it be acceptable to approve these three, right? With a very strong wording that these may be the last three unless you fix the
Yeah.
sidewalk?
I think you gotta be careful with that, though, because again, we're doing it for safety reasons, we're fixing these poles.
I mean, if you
And
deny them, then that's,
Yeah,
heck with it, that's your
yeah,
baby
yeah.
now.
You know,
Right.
be careful how we
Yeah.
do this. I mean,
Yeah.
there are ways that I
I'd
can,
unwrite it. I would just put the caveat as a side note, then we don't have to worry about writing it.
You must have horsepower now.
Get an ice auger down there, and I'll go to the hardware store and get some Quickcrete and seal it right up. Cold patch or whatever, but you can't do it right now because it's higher than the sidewalk. So, and people do trip over it. And I've actually stepped on it one day back during Bucksport days, the parade. I was talking to somebody, and all of a sudden, ba-doom. So, I know it well. I've hit it myself.
Okay, how would the council like to proceed on this?
there's a motion to approve the resolve.
second?
We have motion and seconded to approve the resolve as presented. Anything further from the public? Yes, sir.
Just one question, if somebody does get hurt there, who is responsible for the claims that will come in for the injuries? Is it the town or CMP?
I would say it's CMP's defect, I would think, not ours.
Well, I just want to make sure that they're responsible for the bill. We talked about 2 or 3, 4 people.
I think you're gonna go through the court system, and that'll be an argument that you're gonna have to make to figure out who is responsible. I don't think we can determine that today, but I
I'm
think,
just going to say, if the town's responsible, probably we ought to fix it.
well, I think we'd fight that we were responsible. You know, but I think that's one of those things you have to wait and see, unfortunately, until it happens, then go figure it out.
Because it's really the state right away when you get down to it, so, not ours.
Anything else from the council? All those in favor?
That would work.
Opposed? Motion passes.
try one more
One more strong
Jimmy.
message.
thing here to see if I can.
If not, let's just fix it.
I'm not gonna do this one, right?
Right, right.
Table.
Okay, item B, consider resolve R 2015-65. That's authorizing the code enforcement officer to file a complaint in district court, Rule 80K. How would the council like to proceed on this? Table it, or?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to table it till next meeting.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to table this item until the next meeting, pending further. Yes, sir.
Further proof.
Go ahead.
I understand your request to have more photographs taken of the conditions that exist there. I just would like to get some sense for how much more evidence you need to convince you that we do have a violation.
I'd like to have a panoramic, I guess, of everything that's there.
I could arrange that, but a panoramic picture is not going to give you the close-up detail where you can actually see, oh, yes,
Well,
that's...
it's gonna show me a bunch of tires, it'll show me if there's
Yeah.
appliances and things like that that are stated as a junkyard. I think that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. But keep in mind, the backyard, the contents of the backyard are constantly under
The
they're
date that you take them,
fluid.
it's whatever date that is
So-
that you take them, so that's what we'll go with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one other point I just want to mention that I meant to mention earlier is that the fire chief meant to be here tonight, and unfortunately he's under the weather and couldn't make it, but he asked me to pass on to you his concerns about the fire hazards on his property and the difficulties in fighting a fire because of the amount of junk that's accumulated around the house. So he's quite concerned about that, as well as the unsightly appearance of his property. I'm a little disappointed that there weren't any other property owners in the neighborhood to come to the meeting tonight to let you know, to share with you their concerns about what they see every day in the front yard.
Were they all sent letters about this meeting?
No, they weren't. No, but the word gets around, believe me, that it does, that the fire chief has received several complaints about this from various parties who ask, why isn't something being done about this? And he's assuring them that, yes, something is being done by the code enforcement officer, and I'll do the best I can to give you enough photographic documentation to satisfy your concerns about whether or not we have a violation of town code. I'm convinced that we do, and I'm a little disappointed that I couldn't convince you this evening that we do have a violation. I don't come to you very readily to deal with these issues unless I feel there's a serious issue that needs to be addressed, and there are complaints I'm receiving from citizens in this town, and that's why I'm here tonight.
I would like any further open discussions on this. Maybe we ought to send letters to the adjoining property owners too, in case they do want to come and say one way or the other what their thoughts are.
I think we'll be discussing it on the 29th if it's on the table, so 3 weeks.
And the fire chief, now that we now know he has a concern, have him here too.
He's concerned about the fire hazard. Now, keep in mind, we're in winter conditions, so hopefully we won't have the snow cover that will bury these items, and I will be able to give you a good picture. But I'm assuming Mr. Fields is agreeable to be coming on this property. I'll arrange a time for me to do that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to table this item until further investigation of the complaint. Anything further from the public? Anything further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
You want them? Good, I'll do that, please.
Coming to the rescue of our town manager who has a bad back.
I just got a shot in it. Yeah. Was it yesterday or the day before? So, yesterday.
Okay, item C, consider resolve R 2015-66 to authorize payment to Gary Fuel Service Incorporated for replacement of the heater for mechanics bay at the town garage.
Has some lumbar to it.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolve.
They signed it. No, I need to sign it.
Oh, they did get multiple quotes. Okay, we had a motion and a second to approve the resolve as presented. Anything further from the public? Further from the council? I believe we have money in the reserve account. Yep, okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item D.
I need to sign this.
That's a poll permit. Okay. Consider resolve R 2015-67, authorizing payment to Bob Small Engines for a snow blower and accessories.
Second.
Even though it is $100 more, I would also be in favor of this second, because it is a local business.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? Further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Can I say something on this one?
Which one? Next one?
Next one.
Item E, consider resolve R 2015-68, to authorize and provide for the incurrence of indebtedness for the purpose of providing a portion of the cost of requiring construction, enlarging, improving, and extending its facility to serve an area lawfully within its jurisdiction to serve. Go ahead, say your
Well, this one and the next one I want to table, but basically these right here are bringing us towards accepting the USDA Rural Development loan and the grant. We searched madly today because one of the things I noticed at around midnight last night, searched till 2, and sent Kathy a email and said, when you get in the morning, tell me if we ever voted on this, because I'm exhausted reading the stuff. So they did a search today, and actually town attorney and USDA and everybody was surprised we had to vote on it. I said, we have a $250,000 clause, and I know the mayor checked with Roger Raymond, and Roger said, no, we weren't there yet when I left, so it's just something that during your other manager's time and in between that fell through the cracks. So we were racing against time all day today, and I talked to USDA, and they said, really, it's your time schedule and everything else that's gonna deal with this, and so I talked to Bill Oliver, and he's told me basically that, Derek, why don't we hold off and bid this thing out and find out what the charges are, because we've done some of the design, like the 100-foot deep section there. I forget what he calls it, but it's where one of the pump stations is over on the edge of the property. May add some costs, and USDA already knows that we may be asking for a bigger grant if the bids come in higher. And then he basically said, so let's wait on this. USDA didn't have a problem, and then we can run the referendum and actually get the thing approved. But he thinks that'd be better than going back again and having to ask for voter approval a second time on the same thing, and I agreed. So of course, there's the other question of, whether or not there's another facility that might work and everything else, which we might be able to investigate during that same time. So table these ones. I'll hold the numbers and the resolves, and we'll bring them back in 2 or 3 months after we get USDA approval to bid out.
Okay, consider tabling resolves R 2015-68 and resolve R 2015-69. How would the council like to proceed?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We have motion and second to table these two resolves. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. I think it's a better idea that we get the exact figure anyway before we go out to referendum.
Well, we had fun today, to say the least. I held the agenda open for a good portion of the day, and I said, all I gotta do is do this last thing. So we got the wording for the article anyways all set to go now too, so we're in good shape when the time comes now. I got everything I need. So it wasn't wasted time in the end.
Agenda, I have a copy of it.
All right, page 2.
I tucked it away and,
I do it, that's why I keep mine clipped.
okay, thank you. Okay, item 11, appointments. Planning board member.
Yes. The appointment committee met tonight, and we had 3 people that had put in for the, at the time, a single position, but Mr. C had resigned, so that's the second one. But one of the people who had put in had a conflict on meeting dates, wouldn't be able to attend the meetings, so kind of took him out of contention. So the committee recommends that we appoint Mary Jane Bush and Christopher Johnson to the 2 open seats on the planning board.
How would the council like to proceed?
So moved. Second.
We have motion and seconded to approve the recommendations from the appointments committee to 2 members for the planning board. Anything from the public? Yes, sir.
Kathy or Byron, is there any difference in the end of the term date?
Yes.
Is there a, which one should be what?
Yes.
So we don't have-
I gave that to Jeff. Jeff, did you have that for tonight's meeting?
One
One was for a full
Yes.
5-year, and one
One
was
is
for
for
4. So you need to make a,
We didn't discuss that in the committee meeting, but we'll take it on the fly here.
I just thought of it just now, so.
Didn't realize there was a difference.
We have one of them here. Does he have a preference?
Mr. Johnson, do you have a preference?
Just for the council. Fine.
You're a big help.
Yeah, that means.
Congratulations to your 5 years. One meeting a month.
If the committee doesn't object, let's appoint Mr. Johnson to the 5-year term and Mary Jane to the 4-year term.
I'll amend my motion to that.
Thank you.
We have a second for the amended motion?
Second.
Second, okay. We have a motion and a seconded to approve the appointments of the appointments committee.
Planning board.
To the planning board. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. Register of voters.
That doesn't
No
come to
problem.
us, but.
That's the town clerk.
The town clerk. I move we appoint the town clerk as the register of voters.
it's for a 2-year term.
2-year term.
22?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a seconded to approve the town clerk as a register of voters. Anything from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. Okay, item 12, town manager's report.
I'll just go. I think I covered everything, but I did want to mention a department head report. On Tuesday, we had probably one of the longest department head meetings of all time. I think I told Mayo I might get like a half-hour comp time or whatever it was by the time we're done, because it lasted about 3.5 hours. Or whatever. So, but I explained the gravity of the budget situation that we're looking at, and that, you know, I haven't really got marching orders that try to keep the budgets as flat as possible, try to look for savings if there are any. And and I also said I'd like to get them as soon as possible, because I'd like to review them with him, since especially this year, although it will be something I want to do every year, because I have a lot to learn from them, being the fact that this budget's new to me. And there will be some nuances that I've already seen in some of the budgets, especially in the revenue and expense side, where there's 2 different figures because of the contract towns and stuff like that, to make better sense. And so overall, got a pretty good feeling about the process for the most part. And of course, I'll be relying on the mayor, who's a pro now, I think, at budgets now, since he helped out last time, if I have any other questions, or any of you, if I have some questions too. So that's about it.
It's going
for
to be an
that.
interesting year.
Yeah, well, it's not exactly my dream budget that I've ever thought about looking at, let's just say that. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, public hearing and/or approval of any licenses or permits. We don't have any. Okay, item 14, discussion items not on the agenda for the public.
Eastman.
Yeah, I want to ask the council to authorize, my wife and I have organized a public event at the Alamo, and the Alamo's indicated that if we get council approval, they'll let us do it there for free. It's going to be a presentation night on the future of Bucksport. We've lined up 8 speakers in an interesting format, and we're just looking for your approval.
Okay, for people who haven't been on the council before, when we gave the Alamo money to keep going several years ago, part of that agreement was that, I think it was 10.
I don't know the specifics. Jane's the one that brought it up to me.
I'm pretty sure it was 10, wasn't it, Dave?
10, 5 for the school, 5 for the town.
Right, okay. Where we had access to that the Alamo Theater.
Yeah.
So you're asking for us to,
Approve the use?
for
one
one of the
time.
town.
Yep.
And I don't think we've used any this year that I'm aware of.
I don't, Jane said no.
We used one for the sculpture back a while,
But it's on a calendar year.
Yeah, okay, that was the last
So,
one.
So January 1st is when it would have started?
you got it.
And this would be February 5th.
And this will be basically,
It's a presentation event. We have 8 speakers. They have 20 slides, 20 seconds per slide to present an idea on the future of Bucksport is the theme. And we've got some good speakers.
It's open to the public?
Open to the public.
What's the Japanese name for that?
Pechakucha, or
Thank you.
Pachakucha.
I went to one of these down in Lewiston when David Key and Chris Johnson and I went to the Build Maine thing, and I thought it was pretty neat and fascinating because these guys that were doing our presentations the next day had to do them all in 6 minutes, 40 seconds with these 20 slides, and I think I got more out of those presentations than I did out of like sitting through hours of the other ones because they were hitting all the fine points. Of course, sometimes you need to know what the problem is or what the solution is, but it's actually an interesting format.
Well, I move we approve the use of the, use one of our chits, so to speak, to approve the use for this particular purpose.
And I'm happy to, we've got a lineup. We've got Ben Sprague out of Bangor, Mike Hurley out of Belfast, David Weeda, a local business person, Naomi Great Chase. Lori Brooks is going to do a presentation on a thought she has on Wilson Hall. Asha Fenn on the pop-up shops that occurred in the, this past season. And Jim LeClaire and Maine Farmland Trust. So we've lined all those up to come speak.
So some good things could come out of it, and it doesn't cost the town anything.
Doesn't cost anything, and, just some ideas.
I move we approve.
Good idea.
What's the date again?
February 5th,
Thank you very much. At what time?
5:30.
At the Alamo, I want to make sure the folks are getting it.
Yep. And we're getting it out there.
doesn't, just consensus.
It's just a consensus to authorize the, I looked at how we've done it in the past, and
Okay.
and it just give consensus to allow the manager to.
I withdraw my motion.
You want to make that motion now, Dave?
Sure, move that we have consensus to permit this to happen.
Second that?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion items? Yes, sir.
Something I'd like to see, either on the 29th of January's meeting or the first meeting in March, is the discussion for possible action. I'd like to see, going along with what Derek was saying, and what we all know, the financial outlook we're facing. There's a lot of really talented people that are looking to save big amounts of money, and that's good. But there's also a lot of $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 items that we can cut that will save some money, and those items add up. I would like to see the discussion centered on, starting in July 1st, that the council the money we get as councilors be reduced to zero.
Are you making that as a motion?
I would like to see that for, I'm not making it a motion because I don't want to bring it up for a motion, a vote
You
tonight.
mean, sorry, we're
I
resolved
want
at
to
the next
see, I want to
meeting?
have discussion for it, for a possible action at
Oh, then we'll
either
do
the
it
last
next.
meeting of this month or the first meeting in March. It's not a lot of money, it's probably $8,000 or $10,000, but $8,000 or $10,000,
I thought he missed a month. but
10
I
or 10 or
remembered.
10 or 12 times is a lot of money. And that's the least, if we're gonna start looking at having to do some serious cuts, make the cut here first.
I have a different opinion, but that's okay.
Not the first time that we've disagreed.
That's right. Well, you know, the town council hasn't had a pay raise in years.
Right.
And we deal with keeping the taxpayers' tax rate down as low as possible. A lot of people work a lot of long hours, and we all have committee meetings. If you really figured out what council members made per hour, we'd probably be down to about 50 cents an hour
If
at
that-
the most.
Oh, and I agree with you.
And,
We're never gonna get paid what we'll, well, that's a bad thing to say. I'm gonna say we're never gonna get paid what we're worth, maybe we're getting paid more than we're worth. But the point is that I think we always have amongst ourselves and the various council members, and some of the members of the public, made the joke that we do it for the big bucks. And at what we get paid, that is probably one of the biggest jokes around. But I honestly think that before we look at affecting any of our employees, and I'm not saying we're doing that, but if we have to start looking at affecting people or anything like that, that the cuts be made at the top first, and we're the top, whether we, and yeah, we put in a lot of hours, but none of us here do it for the money. If we were, we wouldn't, sure the heck wouldn't be on this council.
Jeffrey, do you have something to say on
I
that?
just want to add that the council pay is established by charter, so that would require a charter amendment.
No problem, I'm willing to do it, and that's why I'm saying have it effective in July, because I believe we're gonna have to have at least a voting, an election in June to vote on the school budget anyway, so we can, if we need to have something that we have to vote on, have the public vote on, that's fine, that's why I'm saying make it effective July 1st.
Oh, we're gonna have another one on that sewer plant anyways before then,
There's
probably.
an opportunity, it wouldn't cost us any extra money to
March.
have this item on it.
All right, any other discussion items? I have one. Town report, where are we with the town report?
I don't know who, I know I owe a report for the town report for the whopping 2 weeks. No, I gotta try to go back and just study what happened in the last year. If anybody wants to supply me with a couple of things that happened that you think were highlights, I can include it in my report also, but I don't pull out of a resolve or something like that. I know like.
When's that
Feldman
normally
Properties
published?
And Marina soon.
Now? Okay,
Chris has got it.
we got a lot
That's
going
good.
on, okay.
Yeah.
We need to follow up on that. Any other discussion items?
I just have two. I have sorry, excuse me. A gentleman that was talking about if there's a way to put a sidewalk on, is it Nicholson Avenue? I guess there's a lot of high schoolers walk down there and there's no sidewalk at all. And also, it was brought to my attention that, I don't know if it's our truck or not, but the public school has a truck that they're using for personal use as well, and I just was wondering if that's something that maybe we could do something as far as letter it up or something to let it be known that it's actually, but I don't know if it's the school that owns that now, or it's the RSU, or if it is the town,
Okay.
so I don't know.
Maybe the
that-
schools.
That might be the RSU new truck. But as far as the sidewalk on Nicholson Avenue,
Yeah,
that was, when that road was originally rebuilt, because that has such a small right-of-way,
okay,
there's really no way
room to put it.
to put that without going and taking other
Okay.
people's property. That's why we were really in hopes of this Park Street extension taking place where people could walk down Park Street. But right now, that's, huh?
That has been, the Park Street project is, does have, in this design, has a sidewalk.
Yes, yes. But
And that's, it's, that has been sent to the Army Corps for their review of that permit application.
Okay.
So I talked with Mike Millett today.
Okay.
And we're still in the plans of hoping to get that approved, so that, in order to put it out to bid for construction season in the spring.
And that would run from where to where?
From Route 1, the Park Street is next to Family Dollar.
Right.
That goes up to, right now, there's a cul-de-sac, but if you continue that up approximately 400 feet, it would intersect with Broadway.
Okay.
Right now, there's only about 200 feet between Broadway, the Broadway extension, and where Park Street would
Right.
intersect.
So the high school students would be able to use that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
And if they were going to McDonald's or something, that's the direction they'd be going anyway, so.
Another thing, Miles Lane extends from and back, well, right next to the Dunkin' Donuts, and goes up through and comes out in the apartment complex up there.
Correct.
I mean, if we're looking at several years before Park Street gets done, that might be an option that we build a walkway or path up through there, which I believe Miles Lane is owned by the town.
Correct. It's certainly an issue that's, if you're going to do something, my recommendation has been in the past that you really should consider doing something, because at some point, the property owners can claim that it's a discontinued way, and therefore it belongs to them.
I think you're chuckling because of the issue behind Wendell's. But
Right.
you can, at the end of the Wendell property on Pond Street, is it Pond Street? Start from there down, because you could walk down the road to there.
I was just thinking back on
I
the
know.
issue we had
Yeah.
from Broadway to Pond.
I'm lost.
I'll show it to you.
All right. I know where Wenville is, but I'm lost on what you're doing.
Okay.
It's actually that little dead-end road that I always end up going up the wrong one and having to go all the way back to School Street anyways.
No problem.
All right, I hate that one. That one-way road, I get through all the time.
Okay, any other discussion items? Okay, item 15, upcoming public hearings. Believe in Bucksport Public Forum at the Performing Arts Center, Middle School Performing Arts Center, from 4 to 6 p.m., January 10th, 2015. Derek, would you like to say anything on this?
Didn't I already say something during
Yeah,
the
say something
initial
more.
vote? We're looking forward to, getting the public's comments, their ideas, what they'd like to see of the Bucksport in the future. As I was telling the department heads, we may be headed towards a new normal. What that means is really up to what the people give us for ideas on what they want to see in Bucksport in the future. And so everybody, please come in, even if you can only give a half hour of your time, we'll take it. We prefer to get people to be there all night. We're open to any ideas that you have, and there's no bad ideas. Some of the craziest ideas sometimes turn out to be the best ideas. So, and of course, we'll allow you to also decide when the next forum should be by filling out the sign-in sheet that will give us an idea of whether Saturdays are a good time or whether it should be during the day. I've already had a few comments from people that'd like to see it a different time. That it will really depend on what the majority of people want. So hopefully a lot of people can attend. It's very, very important for our future.
And I assume the council, all those that can be there will be there.
And
Name tags.
this is probably one of many forums on this, because the whole situation with the mill is constantly evolving. We don't have all the facts yet, or where even what's going to be happening into the mill 6 months, a year from now, what's even going to be there a year from now. So it's a kickoff to get people's input on where they think Bucksport ought to be 5, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So hopefully we'll get a good turnout for it and get some great ideas. Okay, item 16 is designation of topic for committee assignments and scheduling. I'd like to table this. It doesn't look like anything on here is really urgent. And that gives us a couple of weeks to get our committee assignments put together. Does anybody have a problem with that? Does anybody see anything on here that's really urgent?
you're planning on making the, obviously, the committee assignments at the next council meeting?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, there's a finance committee meeting that we need to have not later than the middle of March but we can do that, so we do it on the first, we can do that in the first part of March, but that'll be all right. The rest of them, the review council rules, we need to continue the charter review for the ordinance committee, but if we want to wait till, because there'll be a new warm body on the ordinance committee. Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Any issues with that? Okay, item 17. Go ahead.
I was just gonna mention, I'd done a little research on the, at the beginning of the meeting. I have to take it back. The recommendation of the manager should not be the mayor that should be the ordinance committee chairman. Should be the ordinance committee chairman that should be considered to be the chairman pro temp, because in the charter, it talks about if you're unavailable, then I should go see the ordinance committee chair to prepare the agenda and everything else. So that's what it was supposed to do. Somehow, I was dyslexic. So you don't have, you're still an ex officio member of that committee, but it should be, if we decide to do it, the chairman pro temp should be the ordinance committee chairman.
All right.
Doesn't have to be, but it recommends it every week. That's it.
Item 17, agenda items requiring executive session. I don't believe we have any. And 18, adjournment.
So moved.
Nobody's going to move the table then?
We have motion seconded for adjournment. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.